Hello everyone, this is Brett. Thank you for stopping by. Today is going to be a little departure from what I normally discuss on this channel, which is primarily music, but I'm a huge lover of film and TV series, and I've been wanting to start talking about movies on the channel for quite a while, and today marks the beginning of that. This is going to be Watchlist for July 2024. I'm going to talk about TV shows that we streamed, movies that we streamed, 4K Blu-rays, as well as regular Blu-rays. My wife Sarah and I logged 17 films and 2 complete series that we watched in July. And let's dig in. First up, Beverly Hills Cop. We streamed this one. The 1984, the first movie in the Beverly Hills Cop franchise. This was inspired just because the 4th film just came out at the first week of July, so we intended to start with this and watch all 4 movies. I'm sure I saw Beverly Hills Cop back in the day, but I had barely any recollection at all, and honestly I wasn't really too engaged with it, so we ended up throwing in the towel and not actually watching the other 3 movies, which is unfortunate because I was really looking forward to it, but maybe someday we'll restart it. So Beverly Hills Cop. Next up, this one, I don't use TikTok. I'm not really familiar with it, but we've been watching a lot of true crime stuff, and so we ended up watching this one on a Peacock original called TikTok Star Murders. Knew nothing about it other than it showed up as our recommended watch. The premise sounded intriguing. It's basically this guy who got internet famous on TikTok for just doing the same Al Pacino Godfather impersonations over and over again, developed millions of followers, and kind of chronicled his life, his relationship with his wife, which then turned really sour, and that was all kind of documented, and it ends pretty tragically. Yeah, TikTok Star Murders. Found it pretty interesting. I don't know if I necessarily recommend it, but that was our second watch of the month. All right, next up. So this one is really highly regarded and award-winning. And this is called Anatomy of a Fall. So a woman is suspected of killing her husband after he's found in the snow outside of her home. I had a really hard time with this one. I did not love it, and I know it's so highly regarded. It was recommended by several people, but for me, I just did not feel it. That's Anatomy of a Fall. All right, next up, you probably never thought I would talk about the band Nickelback on this channel, but I think this was on 4th of July. We ended up watching it to combat the loud fireworks going on. But this is called Hate to Love Nickelback, and you know, I don't know much about the Canadian band Nickelback, but I love a good music documentary, even if it features artists that maybe I'm not familiar with or I'm not necessarily into their music. I still like to hear their story. I found it pretty intriguing, their humble beginnings to massive success, all the kind of hate that ensued, but they still persevered. There were all types of, personal issues. So if you love a good music documentary, even if you're not necessarily into the artist, this was actually pretty entertaining. That is Hate to Love Nickelback. Continuing in that vein, this is called Am Seline Dion. Once again, not really, Celine Dion, not really someone that I listen to, but I respect her as a vocalist. This was heartbreaking and enlightening. If you don't know, she struggles with a really serious illness where it really makes it really difficult for her to function and to sing. So this is a behind-the-scenes look at it, just really bare bones. You see her life behind the scenes, her struggles, and it was so thrilling to see her perform at the Olympic opening ceremony on top of the Eiffel Tower. She sounded great, and it was so good to see after watching this documentary to see all the struggles that she went through. But I Am Celine Dion. Highly recommend this one. All right, next up, we're going to go to a Blu-ray here. Every year, twice a year, Barnes & Noble does a half-off Criterion sale, 50% off. So I went and picked up Repo Man. This is the Blu-ray. I know it is available in 4K as well. But this one was the only copy that was available when I went down there, and it looks great. And Criterion always does a fantastic job. You got the little inner here. It comes with a book, a pretty thick book. And then there's the disc. A bunch of cool artwork as well. So Repo Man. I can't recall if I saw this back in the day. I assume I did, but no memory. Stars Emilio Estevez as a young punk rocker. He ends up meeting Harry Dean Stanton's character, who is a repo man, and he gets kind of gets suckered into helping out and becomes a repo man. If you're unfamiliar with that term, it's when people fall delinquent on their car payments. The bank or whoever will repossess the cars, and they'll hire someone to come and kind of steal it in a way and take it back. And that's what happens in here. But there's all types of weird alien stuff going on. It's a wild ride set in Los Angeles with a pretty killer soundtrack, Iggy Pop, Black Flag, Circle Jerks, etc. So if you've never seen it before, Repo Man, this was really good, and it looked fantastic. All right, next up, here's another one that I picked up at the Criterion sale. One of my absolute favorite movies of all time. This is Ghost World. Upgraded the DVD copy to this Blu-ray. They did, once again, a really fantastic job. You know, you get the little comic book in here. You also get a book which, you know, shows a lot of behind-the-scenes pictures, making of type stuff. So Ghost World, a coming-of-age story. The two characters played by Thora Birch and Scarlett Johansson just graduate high school. They're trying to figure out what they want to do with their life. And it's just such a fun film. You have Steve Buscemi, a character who plays this nerdy record collector who collects only like 78s. And Enid ends up striking up a friendship with him. And it's just so fun. And one of my all-time favorites. The bonus content on this one has some, you know, more modern day interviews with both Thora Birch and Scarlett Johansson, and then some of the other actors in here, and that was really fascinating as well. Absolutely recommend. If you've never seen Ghost World, do yourself a favor, check it out. All right, next up, this is one I call it Tubby, but I think it's pronounced Tubi. Is a free streaming network that you can get, and they have such a great catalog of films on there, and a lot of cool B horror movies as well. So I just happened to log in on the day when this was this was featured on the front page, and this is called Spread, starring Elizabeth Gillies, and it's a Tubi original. And Elizabeth Gillies starred in that Dynasty reboot. She stars as Ruby Clark, a young woman that's a kind of like a budding journalist. She keeps getting fired from jobs, so she goes to a temp agency who places her for one day working at this adult magazine called Spread, which is run by Harvey Keitel's character. Horrified, she makes it through the first day, but they end up hiring her on permanently to kind of bring the magazine into the 21st century, aka making an app and also having any type of social media. It's totally ridiculous, but very entertaining. That is Spread. All right, next up here is, speaking of ridiculous, this is Robot Jocks. This is a Blu-ray, and I want to just show you, this is put out by Arrow Video in this cool box set, which is called Enter the Video Store, Empire of Screams, which comes with five films. And Robot Jocks is set in the future, and for entertainment, these kind of robot jockeys go inside these huge robots and they fight each other. That is the premise of it. Really entertaining, of course ridiculous. And there's a character in there that I was watching. I'm like, man, that guy looks familiar. And then I realized it was Sato from Karate Kid 2, who was Mr. Miyagi's nemesis when they went to Okinawa. So that is Robot Jocks. All right, next up, this is Amy, the Amy Winehouse documentary that A24 put out from several years back. What a sad, tragic story. What an amazing voice. Highly recommend the documentary, which brings us next to Back to Black, which we watched the following night, which is a biopic. So glad that we watched the Amy documentary first, because I found this to be a total letdown. I would recommend, if you're interested in the Amy Winehouse story, watch the documentary. Skip this one or watch it just for comparison. But yeah, that was our 11th watch of the month. Next up, this is Dirty Pop, the boy band scam, which was playing on Netflix. It's a look at the guy who put together the boy bands like Backstreet Boys, NSYNC, O-Town, and several others. Real kind of skeezy story, lots of shady things going on. I don't want to spoil it for you, but if you're interested, check that out on Netflix. All right, next up, absolutely fantastic. This is Lisa Frankenstein. I think this was on Peacock, I think we watched this on. Absolutely loved it. It's a cross between Diablo Cody wrote it, and if you remember, Diablo Cody did Juno and Jennifer's Body. Well, anyways, this is like a cross between Jennifer's Body and Frankenstein. Great music. It's cool to see all of the Bauhaus and Peter Murphy posters in the background. Even at one point, the kind of Frankenstein character is wearing an old Peter Murphy shirt. Colorful, so well done. And I'll be grabbing this one on physical media. Highly recommend Lisa Frankenstein. Next up, this is Abigail. So Abigail, kidnappers make a huge mistake when they hold a young ballerina for ransom. I don't want to give too much away, but it is a vampire movie. Thoroughly enjoyed Abigail. All right, next up, this is Monkey Man. So Monkey Man is a guy that seeks revenge for the murder of his mother that occurred when he was a kid. Fascinating. Some really great fight scenes in this one. Monkey Man. Okay, next one up. The Zone of Interest. This was recommended by a few people. So the story on Zone of Interest, it centers around the family of the Commandant of the Auschwitz concentration camp. The family home of the Commandant was just over the wall to the concentration camp, where millions of people were horrifically murdered. Meanwhile, the Commandant and his kids are swimming, sunbathing, going on boat rides, while on the other side of the wall, all these monstrosities are occurring. The film never really shows what's happening, but in the background, you can hear gunshots, you can hear screaming, you see smoke coming out of... It's hard to say that you enjoy this movie, but I will say that it was very well done, and it's been on my mind ever since watching it. So I do definitely recommend checking out The Zone of Interest. And the last film is a companion piece to The Zone of Interest, which we ended up watching immediately after it because it came up as a recommended viewing, and that is The Commandant's Shadow. And this is a documentary featuring the son and the grandson of the Commandant behind Auschwitz, and how they kind of live and deal with the aftermath of knowing that their father or grandfather committed all these horrible atrocities. It also features a woman who survived the concentration camp, and then it also features her daughter. There's a really interesting scene where those two parties actually meet for coffee, and it's just heartbreaking. I recommend watching both of those. That was The Commandant's Shadow. All right, so now we're going to get on to the series, and we only watched 2 series, and you'll understand why when I show the first one. That is Game of Thrones, 8 seasons. So back when Game of Thrones, probably around 2015, I watched like the first 4 or 5 seasons of it, and then for some reason I stopped watching it, and we ended up watching that House of Dragon last month, and then once we finished the first season, we decided, oh, let's just go to Game of Thrones. So we started from the very beginning and we quickly watched all 8 seasons. I mean, what else can you say about Game of Thrones? It's a great show. Next up was, we just watched this one the other night, and that is Mildred Pierce. This is the one featuring Kate Winslet. Kate Winslet, you may remember as the star of Titanic. So Mildred Pierce goes through a divorce and and then ends up having to go out and find a job. It's set several decades back. She struggles with her own pride in getting a job. And then also her super bratty daughter puts a lot of guilt on her. She ends up kind of finding herself through opening up a restaurant of her own and finding success with that. But that daughter of hers is just, I won't say anymore. Really good. It's a 5-part miniseries, and I think it was on Max that we watched it. Highly recommended that one as well. All right, that concludes this video. So that is our watch list for July 2024. Let me know if you guys have seen any of these films or series that I featured today. And I'll be back doing more of these movie videos. So if you're interested in that as well, please subscribe. And I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.